Ohio's property tax hikes aren't just bruising homeowners. They're pushing them out. In places like Cleveland and Dayton, families with steady jobs and decent credit are falling behind on payments, not because they borrowed recklessly, but because the math no longer works. Add stagnant incomes to aging infrastructure and rising maintenance costs, and what used to be manageable is now unsustainable. Ohio may not seem like the epicenter of a crisis, but its mix of economic stagnation and mounting financial pressures is forcing thousands to give up their homes.
If you're done watching corrupt elites rig the system and leave you behind, subscribe now. If you want real talk, raw truth, and zero spin, this is your channel. If you're ready to fight back, hit that subscribe button and stand with us.
And it's not just Ohio. From the Midwest to the coast, the same story is playing out in uniquely devastating ways. What's emerging is a foreclosure crisis unlike any before. It's not fueled by subprime mortgages or financial speculation. It's being driven by the cost of staying put. Whether it's South Carolina's hurricane-fueled insurance spikes, Indiana's shrinking job market, or New Jersey's punishing property taxes, families across income levels are overwhelmed. Even in wealthier areas, costs are outpacing earnings. As states like California and Florida grapple with the compound effects of climate risk and economic volatility, it's clear this isn't a fringe problem. It's a nationwide reckoning, one that reveals just how fragile homeownership has become in America. It's happening again, but this time, it's not because banks handed out toxic mortgages like Halloween candy. This time, it's not Wall Street's greed crashing down on working families. This time, it's something far more widespread, far more insidious, and far more difficult to escape. The rising cost of simply existing in the United States of America. Right now, across the country, foreclosure rates are quietly ticking upward in states you'd expect, and in some you wouldn't. From the battered industrial towns of Ohio to the hurricane-ravaged coastlines of Florida, the story is the same. People are losing their homes, not because they bought too much house, but because the system around them is falling apart. This isn't 2008. This isn't about predatory lending and fraudulent mortgage-backed securities. No. The surge we're seeing now is rooted in something even more structurally broken. The simple math of affordability. Property taxes are up. Insurance premiums are through the roof. Wages? Flatline. Debt is piling on. Savings are gone. And one surprise expense, one storm, one job loss, one roof repair, can push families over the edge. In Ohio, foreclosure filings have soared. The culprits? A perfect storm of stagnant wages and rising property taxes. For many, the American dream is dissolving, not because they gambled on risky investments, but because their day-to-day costs keep rising while their income refuses to budge. Middle-income families who once felt secure are now on the edge. And no, it's not just isolated to one county or one city. It's systemic. It's a slow bleed that's finally turning into a full-scale crisis. Down in South Carolina, things aren't much better, but the reasons are different. Here, homeowners are being priced out not by taxes or wages, but by climate-driven insurance costs. With hurricanes battering the coast year after year, insurance premiums have skyrocketed. In many cases, the insurance bill is now more than the mortgage payment, and you can't skip it, not when disaster could wipe you out tomorrow. That's the reality. Families are being financially drowned long before the floodwaters even rise. Then there's Indiana, a state where jobs are disappearing, and with them, the economic safety net homeowners once relied on. The contraction in certain industries has meant that even long-time, stable households are falling behind. Miss one payment, then two, and suddenly, foreclosure is on the table. No fraud, no bad decisions, just economic decay. In New Jersey, it's the property taxes. Not a little high, obscenely high. Even households that are relatively well off are feeling the squeeze. New Jersey's taxes are among the highest in the nation, and when they keep rising while incomes stay flat, it's a slow grind toward instability. Add in the crushing weight of public debt and unfunded pension obligations, and homeowners are footing the bill literally. Meanwhile, in California, the problem is housing costs themselves. No state symbolizes the affordability crisis like California, where the tech boom has driven prices into the stratosphere, then dumped thousands of workers out during downturns. It's volatile, and when the market dips, so do jobs and income. Now, many middle-class Californians are seeing homes they fought to keep slip through their fingers. Illinois isn't far behind, with a deadly combination of rising taxes and massive pension debt crushing its residents. Homeowners are paying more and more to prop up a broken fiscal system. And for what? Crumbling infrastructure, budget shortfalls, and a government that can't seem to offer any relief. The result? Foreclosures ticking up in working and middle-class communities that used to be stable. Rhode Island tells yet another version of the same story. Their aging housing stock is becoming a liability. Old homes cost more to maintain, more repairs, more utilities, more problems. And when your income is increasing, those repair costs pile up fast. Rhode Island's economy hasn't exactly been booming either, and families find themselves trapped, unable to sell, unable to fix, and now unable to keep the house. In Wyoming, it's not just that foreclosures are happening. It's how fast they're happening. There, once you miss a payment or two, the process moves with breakneck speed. In just over 4 months, you can go from being late on a mortgage to having your home legally taken. That's not a safety net. That's a trapdoor. And it's particularly devastating in an economy tied to boom and bust industries like energy, where one bad quarter can lead to hundreds of families scrambling. And then there's Florida, a state whose foreclosure problems are being supercharged by environmental chaos. Hurricanes, flooding, and extreme weather events are jacking up insurance costs to the point where they rival mortgage payments. Add in the damage costs, the rebuilding delays, and the insurance companies walking away from coastal risk entirely. And you've got homeowners spending more to protect their homes than to actually live in them. It's all connected. The cost of living is outpacing income across the board. Property taxes, insurance premiums, repair costs, utility bills. Everything is up, but incomes? Static. And this isn't just hitting lower-income families. Even upper-middle-class households are seeing the cracks. People who did everything right are now underwater, not because they were irresponsible, but because the system around them no longer works. This is a middle-class crisis, a fixed-income crisis, a retirement crisis. It's affecting new homeowners, long-time residents, the elderly, and even the wealthy. When the costs keep climbing and the incomes don't, eventually the math just doesn't work. Across all 10 of these states, the reasons vary, some driven by fiscal mismanagement, others by natural disasters, others by economic stagnation or demographic shifts, but the result is the same. People are losing their homes, and no one's coming to help. This isn't about poor credit anymore. It's not about bad financial decisions. This is about a system that's failing to protect homeowners, a system that's burying people under tax bills and insurance premiums, a system that's turning unexpected expenses into financial ruin. And let's be clear, foreclosures don't just impact one family. When a home is lost, it drags down the entire neighborhood. Property values sink. Vacant homes invite crime. Local tax revenue falls. Public services are cut, and the spiral deepens. That's the domino effect we're now seeing on the horizon. In states like Illinois and New Jersey, the fiscal burden on homeowners is unsustainable. In states like South Carolina and Florida, the environmental costs are pushing families to the brink. And in places like Ohio and Indiana, the jobs just aren't there to support long-term housing stability. This isn't about one bad policy or one bad year. This is a result of years, decades of economic imbalances, neglected infrastructure, political inaction, and corporate indifference. And now it's all coming due. To stop the bleeding, early intervention is critical. Homeowners need support, not after they default, but before they even fall behind. Financial counseling, mortgage assistance programs, tax relief, insurance reform, none of these are luxuries anymore. They're necessities. But just as important, this crisis isn't uniform. The challenges in Rhode Island are not the same as those in Wyoming. One-size-fits-all national solutions won't cut it. We need localized strategies that actually reflect the on-the-ground realities of each state. That means investing where the need is greatest and recognizing that what works in California won't necessarily apply in Indiana. The warning signs are clear. Foreclosures are rising. Home equity is shrinking. Vacancies are increasing. Community stability is in danger. And without structural reform, we risk another housing collapse, this time without the bailouts or the scapegoats. We need bold policy, early support, and long-term planning. Without it, this crisis will not only deepen, it will redefine the American housing market as we know it. So if you think this doesn't affect you, think again. It's in your state. It's in your county. It's probably happening on your street. The only question left is, what are we going to do about it? If this video helped you understand the deeper forces behind the housing crisis, hit the like button, share it with someone who needs to see it. Drop a comment and tell us what's happening in your area. And if you want more hard-hitting breakdowns on the issues shaping your life, subscribe and turn on notifications. We're not done yet. Let's be crystal clear. This foreclosure surge is not a blip. It's not some temporary bump that we'll all look back on and laugh about in a few years. This is a signal, a red flashing warning light on the dashboard of the American economy. And while the people in power fiddle with interest rates, talk in circles, and throw out press releases, families are losing the one thing they thought was untouchable, their homes. Let's talk about the psychological toll. What does it do to a person when they can't afford to keep the house they've lived in for 10, 15, 20 years? What does it do to a child when the only bedroom they've ever known is packed up in boxes overnight? This crisis isn't just economic. It's deeply personal. It's about pride, dignity, and survival. And no, this isn't just happening in so-called struggling neighborhoods. These aren't just run-down homes in forgotten zip codes. We're talking about middle-class suburbs, well-established communities, good school districts, places that were supposed to be immune. Now they're not, because nobody is safe from rising costs when nothing else is rising with them. In Illinois, for example, it doesn't matter if you paid off half your mortgage. If the property taxes alone are driving you deeper into debt every year, you're still at risk. You can't refinance your way out of a broken state budget. You can't negotiate with a government that just keeps passing the bill to you. And the worst part? These aren't decisions homeowners made. They're consequences of political failure, accumulated over decades, and now the burden is falling squarely on people who just wanted a place to raise their kids. In California, tech layoffs have thrown thousands of families into uncertainty. High-paying jobs vanish overnight. Stock options disappear. And suddenly, that million-dollar home with a massive mortgage, it becomes an anchor, dragging people into financial ruin. And it's not just Silicon Valley. From Sacramento to San Diego, the story repeats. Housing costs are unbearable, insurance is climbing, and even solid incomes can't keep pace. When working professionals are being priced out, what chance does the average family have? Let's not forget the elderly. Fixed-income retirees who bought their homes decades ago are now being taxed and insured out of them. Their homes are appreciating in value, sure, but appreciation doesn't pay the bills. They can't cash in without selling. And for many, selling means leaving their community, their routine, and sometimes their independence behind. They're being pushed out of their homes not by bad financial choices, but by a system that no longer makes room for them. In states like Rhode Island and Ohio, the problem is even more structural. The homes themselves are aging, roofs leak, pipes break, heating systems fail, and repair costs are out of reach. When you don't have $10,000 lying around to fix a crumbling foundation or replace a furnace, what happens? You defer the maintenance. The home deteriorates. The value drops. And eventually, the banks start circling. That's the brutal math. Homeowners can't afford the upkeep, but they also can't afford to walk away. In places like South Carolina and Florida, insurance companies are pulling out completely. They're done taking losses on storm damage, and families are left scrambling. When insurers bail, you either pay sky-high rates from secondary providers or go uninsured altogether. But no insurance means you can't have a mortgage, and no mortgage means you're in default. It's a setup, and it's entirely legal. Now take Wyoming. There, you don't even get a fighting chance. The foreclosure process is brutally fast. Barely 4 months from missing a payment to losing your home entirely. No time to catch up. No room to negotiate. Just an eviction notice and the door slamming behind you. It's speed over mercy, process over humanity. And while we're here, let's call out the silence. Where is the urgency from Congress? whereas a national response to a crisis that's clearly growing in scale and speed. We hear plenty about inflation, interest rates, even the job market. But when it comes to housing instability, it's as if everyone in Washington just collectively decided not to talk about it. That's a mistake. A fatal one. Because this isn't just a housing problem. It's a jobs problem, a mental health problem, a public services problem. As neighborhoods decline, so does everything around them. Schools lose funding. Police and fire departments get cut. Local businesses suffer. And the cycle deepens. Even for those who haven't lost their homes yet, the fear is constant. Every month is a balancing act. Pay the mortgage, cover the taxes, keep the lights on, hope nothing breaks. One unexpected medical bill, one lost job, one natural disaster. And that's it. You're in the pipeline. And once foreclosure proceedings begin, it's a steep, slippery slope with almost no foothold. And what about renters? Don't think they're immune. As landlords get hit with higher property taxes and insurance premiums, those costs get passed down the line. Rents rise. Evictions follow. And the housing crisis tightens its grip on yet another group. Let's not forget the banks, the investors, the hedge funds, all lurking on the sidelines. They know what's coming. They see the same data. And they're getting ready to swoop in, just like they did after 2008, to buy up distressed properties for pennies on the dollar. More homes out of reach for working families. More neighborhoods turned into profit machines for distant investors. More control shifted away from communities. The solution? It has to be structural. Cosmetic fixes won't cut it. We need policy reform that actually reflects the new reality. Property tax reform in places like New Jersey and Illinois. Insurance market stabilization in Florida and South Carolina. Support for aging housing stock in Rhode Island and Ohio. Faster, fairer interventions in states like Wyoming. And most importantly, a serious national strategy to make homeownership sustainable again, not just attainable. That means investing in infrastructure. It means reassessing how we fund local governments, especially those that rely almost entirely on property taxes. It means regulating insurance premiums where appropriate. And yes, it means treating housing as a public priority, not just a private commodity. Early intervention works. Mortgage assistance programs, tax deferrals, targeted grants for critical home repairs. These things prevent foreclosure. They keep families in their homes, neighborhoods intact, and communities functioning. But right now, they're underfunded, hard to access, or non-existent. If we let this crisis grow, the consequences won't just be economic. They'll be social, psychological, intergenerational. Children uprooted from their schools. Elderly residents pushed into substandard housing. Communities fractured by displacement. This is not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about stability, identity, and dignity. The family home is more than just a roof and four walls. It's memories, milestones, history. And when that's taken away, something breaks. Not just in finances, but in spirit. The bottom line? We can't afford to wait. The numbers are rising. The warning signs are here. And we have a choice. Act now or face the fallout later. If you're watching this and you're angry, good. You should be. This isn't just your problem. It's our problem. Every home lost is a symptom of a deeper rot. And unless we demand action, real, structural action, we're going to see an entire generation of Americans price out the very thing that was supposed to be their foundation. The truth is, this crisis is bigger than headlines. It's bigger than quarterly reports. It's bigger than whatever spin comes out of Washington or your state capital. Because while the politicians argue over polls and re-election bids, people are packing up their lives into cardboard boxes, leaving behind homes they never imagined they'd lose. And let's be brutally honest, there's no bailout coming for regular people. When banks were in trouble, they got trillions. When corporations cried poverty, they got handouts. But when homeowners are on the brink, families with jobs, kids, and 30-year mortgages, what do they get? A phone number, a long wait, a denial letter, and a foreclosure notice. This isn't just a policy failure. It's a moral one. We have a housing market that rewards speculation but punishes stability. that hands out profits to investors while turning a blind eye to homeowners drowning in bills, that lets insurance companies walk away from coastal communities while still jacking up premiums. And all the while, the message to working Americans is the same. You're on your own. And yet, people still fight. They cut costs. They work longer hours. They take on side gigs. They stretch every dollar. And somehow, even as the costs rise and the pressure builds, they keep trying to hold on. But here's the thing. No one should have to fight this hard just to stay in their home. This country has the resources. It has the tools. What it's lacking is the will. Because it's not just about economics anymore. It's about priorities. Who gets protected and who gets pushed aside. If the current trajectory holds, we're not just heading into a foreclosure spike. We're heading toward a full-blown housing collapse of a different kind. One that doesn't start in the banks, but in the living rooms of ordinary Americans who simply couldn't keep up with the crushing cost of modern life. We cannot afford to normalize this. Because when homeownership becomes a trap instead of a stepping stone, the American dream isn't just at risk. It's already gone. And what replaces it? Generational renters, investor-owned neighborhoods, communities without roots, without pride, without permanence. That's what's at stake. So don't let this slide past you. This crisis is real. It's growing. And it's hitting closer to home than you think. Like this video if you're tired of being ignored. Share it if you know someone barely hanging on. Comment if you're seeing the signs on your block. And subscribe if you're ready to stay informed and stay loud. Because silence won't stop this. But collective pressure might. Let's be loud enough that the people in power can't look away. We're not just telling stories here. We're sounding the alarm. And it's time everyone starts listening.